Hello class, I am back. This is Miss M and I am here to teach you a little bit more AICE psychology, read you a couple videos. In today's video, we're going to talk about Bandura, social learning theory. So before we can get into Bandura's social learning theory, let me tell you a little bit about what was going on in 1961 and before that when Bandura wanted to start this experiment. Okay, TV was kind of new. And we didn't really know the repercussions of watching like aggressive behavior on TV. It was actually theorized around that time that you could relieve the aggression that you felt inside of you by watching other people. Does that make sense? Like, that was the complete opposite of the theory. So Bandura really wanted to show that we learn through watching other people, and that aggression and aggressive behavior and words and verbal words, or anything that's aggressive, is passed on. That it's learned behavior, that it's not just within us. Okay, so what he did was he created this experiment. And before I get into the experiment, I really want to just touch base on operant and classical conditioning. Okay, you're going to need to know a little bit about what this means just to understand the pairing and what's going on in the study specifically. So let me just recap really quickly. Classical conditioning involves a stimulus and a response. Okay, in the beginning, before behavior is created, we have an unconditioned stimulus and an unconditioned response. Then basically something can happen, something can be triggered, and now that stimuli that once meant nothing could be a conditioned stimuli that invokes a conditioned response. Okay, so here's just like a quick example I'll read to you. Your child has experienced his first thunderstorm, or maybe you experienced your first thunderstorm, and you are scared of that booming thunder noise. Each thunderclap was preceded by a lightning strike, as it usually is. Now, when you see the lightning or the flash of camera, now you get nervous and you cry. Now, the unconditioned stimulus is the thunder. The unconditioned response is the fear or being scared. Now it's conditioned. Now you don't even have to be in a thunderstorm. Now you just have to see the flashes. Okay, because that thunder created the lightning, which now you're afraid of. So now we have a conditioned stimuli of lightning or camera flashes or light flashing, and this conditioned response of nervous or crying. So you can see how it can be transferred to different types of things. It doesn't just have to be you're fearful during the thunderstorm, okay? Because it's conditioned. It's conditioned. We created it. Now, let's think about operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a little different. It actually allows us to manipulate behavior in people. There's positive and negative in this. So let's just take a look at the different types of operant conditioning. Now, if we were to make a grade of 4, we would see that we have reinforcing and punishing behavior. We also have positive and negative written in here. Okay, now I don't want you to get confused and think that positive means good and negative means bad. It does not mean that. Okay, positive means to give. Okay, a positive, a plus, to give, and negative means to take away. Now, normally reinforcement means that we want the behavior that they're doing to continue, and then punishment means we want the behavior that they're doing to stop. Okay, so here's some examples of positive reinforcement. That means we are giving something so the behavior continues. So you get an A+ on your test. I give you a lollipop. Good job. Keep doing it. Okay. Now, negative reinforcement is I'm going to take something away because I want your behavior to continue. So you come home with an A+ and I say, oh, you don't have to do your chores this week. Great job. I hope you get an A+ next week. Okay, now punishment. Punishment means we want the behavior to stop. Okay, so positive punishment is we are giving something so that the behavior is done. Now that usually is the least effective out of all 4. And good examples of this is yelling or screaming or hitting or spanking. Okay. Now, the last one is negative punishment, and this means we are taking something away so the behavior stops. So this taking away is probably something that we enjoy or we like a cell phone or car privileges. Okay. Now, by pairing these and doing this behavior over and over, it's kind of teaching the human, okay, I can do this or I can't do this, and yay, this feels good. No, this does not feel good. Let's not do this again. Let's do this again. Okay, so this classical conditioning and operant conditioning, the background is going to be really handy, and I'll probably make another video that explores it a little bit more. Okay, so now let's get into Bandura. Okay, so let's get to Bandura and the psychology that's being studied. Don't forget, this is the learning approach, okay? And we are studying social learning theories in general, specifically aggression in this one. So we talked about classical and operant conditioning. We talked about social learning, but let's talk about imitative learning. Now, imitative learning is the learning of a completely brand new behavior that is never done by the self, and it's observed by a role model, but then this imitated behavior is actually done later on in the absence of the model. And that is what we are looking for in the third classroom. Don't forget, in this study, we have 3 classrooms. Okay, I'll just explain it if you can't, just visualize it. In this very first classroom, this is where we have our model. We have all these cool toys. When this section is done, then we move to a second classroom. The second classroom is kind of this waiting game, and the children are just sat in the room. I'll talk about a little bit more. And then in the third room, the children are left to play by themselves. Well, there's one teacher sitting in the corner. They don't interact with them, but through this one-way mirror, we can observe their behavior. And that is really that imitative learning that I just talked about. We're trying to see if the behavior that was imitated in that first room, we want to see if they complete, who does the same behaviors in that third room, and who was their model and what were they modeling. Okay, so overall, we want to learn aggressive behavior is coming from the model. That's what we want to see. That's what we believe. Okay, so a couple hypotheses that Bandura had was subjects exposed to aggressive models would produce aggressive acts resembling those of their models. Okay, observations of subdued non-aggressive models would have a generalized inhibiting effect on subjects' subsequent behavior. So basically, they want to see if the behavior is going to be reflected different between those who have an aggressive model and those who have a non-aggressive model. Okay, subjects will imitate the behavior of a same-sex model more. That's what they believe. So if a girl sees another female versus seeing another male, that she's going to copy that female. And the same with boys. Bandura believes that if a little boy is placed in front of a female versus a male, that he's going to imitate more behavior of that male. Okay, and I mean, that makes sense just psychologically. It makes sense as far as like the will to survive in humans, you know, really going down to that innate ability to survive. We want to follow those who are like us. Okay, now let's talk about the variables and the independent variables in this study. Okay, so our independent variables, we have 3 different types. Okay, so we have the model behavior type. And this is whether the child saw an aggressive model, a non-aggressive model, or no model at all. Okay, and the no model at all is going to be the control. Okay, number 2, the model gender. So same gender as the child, question mark. Are they the same gender as the child? Are they the opposite gender of the child? So boys watching a male model, girls watching a female model, or different gender, a boy watching a female model and a girl watching a male model. And then the third is the learner's gender. So whether the child was a boy or a girl. That's basically our 3 independent groups. Okay, now our dependent variable again is whether we are, what are we measuring? What are we looking for? Okay, and there's a lot of observational data. This study has a lot of data, so I'm going to try to explain at the end what you really need to know about this. So in our dependent variable, learning, the child displayed, like any learnings the child displayed basically, through the controlled observations, operationalized responses, imitation, partial imitation, verbal, physical. Okay, so we're looking for any and all of that, anything that was repeated from that first room in that third room. And we're also looking for behavior observed in all of these 8 categories, and I'll go over the 8 categories in just a little bit. So basically, anything that the children did was written down, observational data, and it was taken every 5 seconds. Okay, so every child had the same exact amount of data points as it was consistent with the observers. Okay, so let's talk about these children that are in here, because we have an opportunity sample, and this is from the Stanford Nursery right at the university, guys. And something crazy about this study, it was done in 1961, and this would never happen today. Bandura basically walked in and said, "Hi, I would like to do a study using your children," and the teacher gave consent. Okay, not the parents, the teacher. So Bandura took 36 boys, 36 girls, that's a total of 72 of them, and they broke them down into these groups, okay? So again, I think I said we have an opportunity sample, but it was a very unethical way to start an experiment. Okay, so I'm going to try to show you here how they actually broke down the 72 children into different groups. So let's take these 72 children, and what we're going to do is we're going to split them apart. Okay, so we have 24 children here, 24 children here. We have a non-aggressive side, an aggressive side, and then 24 children right in the control group, right in the middle. Okay, in that control group of children, they didn't do anything. That was they didn't have a model to view, okay? So they just kind of sat in each room, okay? So that's 24 kids saw an aggressive model, 24 in the control group, 24 in the non-aggressive. Now, in each side, just imagine this is mirrored, okay? So we have the aggressive. Now, are they a male model? Or are they a female model? Now, is that model, now we have that male model in one group. Did they have a child that is male or female? And we have that other female model. Do they have a child that is male or female? Okay, so hopefully you can get this and understand how it really worked. Okay, so in Bandura's study, we have 3 phases, or 3 rooms that the children completed different phases of the experiment in. So let's talk about phase 1. In phase 1, the child spent 10 minutes in the room, in the classroom, and they were brought in from the hallway, and they were sat down at a table that contained things like stickers, little cars, potato prints, things that are already proven to have high interest for that age group. And then in the corner, there was an adult who sat down at a table that had like little trinket toys and things like that. There was a mallet. There was a Bobo doll in the corner. If you don't know what the Bobo doll is, it's this blow up doll that you can kick and punch and it always comes back up kind of thing. Now, we have in the aggressive model, don't forget, I know this is, we break it down like crazy. We have physical aggression, and we have verbal aggression. So there were some students or kids that only saw verbal. There were some kids that only saw physical. Again, there were some kids who didn't see anything. Now, in the control group, let's talk about the control group. Nothing happened. The child got to play. The teacher sat quietly. The teacher didn't get up. The teacher did not play with toys or do anything. Okay? Now, in the non-aggressive model, the teacher was playing. The teacher was walking around. The teacher was playing with other toys. The teacher did not look at the Bobo doll, did not pick up the mallet or the pistol or anything else that was aggressive toys in there. And then we have the aggressive model. Now, the aggressive model was doing some pretty crazy things. The aggressive model was picking up the Bobo doll and kicking it, punching it in the face, sitting on it and punching it back and forth. I think they were even taking the mallet and punching the Bobo doll, hitting the Bobo doll with the mallet. And yeah, so those were the imitative behaviors that we were looking for the kids to display in the third room, which, guys, this is so fucking unethical. Oops, did I swear? Should I redo that? Ugh. Okay, sorry, it won't happen again. This is so unethical. Okay, now, the verbally aggressive room, the teacher would still be saying things to the Bobo doll, like verbally aggressive things like sock him in the nose, hit him down, throw him in the air, kick him, pow, like basically telling the child out loud what he would want to do with the Bobo doll, or she would want to do with the Bobo doll. Some non-aggressive comments that were also made that maybe we should talk about are things like, I mean, they did say non-aggressive things. They did do non-aggressive things in the aggressive room. So they did have, like, the children could have imitated the non-aggressive behavior. Just saying, like, there were things, for example, keep him coming back for more. He sure is a tough fella, you know, And basically after the teacher is done manipulating the Bobo doll, they take the child and they say, okay, we're going to go to another room now. Phase 2, which is the second classroom, all children were subjected to 2 minutes of mild aggressive response. And basically what this means is we were trying to create aggression in all children, or some type of level playing field, so that we were even agitating the children that were not in the aggressive model. We wanted to see if we could invoke something in those children without providing any imitation. So for example, we brought the children to the second classroom and there were some shiny new toys like fire trucks, cars, all these brand new things. Okay. And we let the child just barely get into playing with them. And then we said to the child, oh, I'm so sorry. This room is not for you. These new toys are for our other kids. These are for the special kids, but I have some toys for you in another room. So just come with me. They're trying to make them mad. They're trying to make them feel bad. They're trying to kind of put them in like a grumpy mood. Okay. And this is really important because they're just trying to set the tone to see if any of these children, now that they're maybe a little upset, if they are going to display any aggressive behavior just because of their emotions and not just because of the imitation. So now that we are leaving room 2, we're going to phase 3 of the experiment, and this took 20 minutes. And it's super important that it's 20 minutes, that you know this, because remember, we took data every 5 seconds. So that's like 240 instances of data for every child. Okay, it's super important to remember. Now, what did we do in this third room? This room was very, very, very similar to what the first room looked like extremely, extremely similar. Okay. Now, the teacher would bring the student in the room, and instead of interacting with the student, they went right to their desk and they sat down and they pretended to be really, really busy in paperwork. Okay. And basically this is where we let the children just go in the room and we let them do whatever they wanted to do, anything. So for example, here are some of the aggressive toys that were available to them. We have the Bobo doll, we have the mallet, we have a pegboard. I think the pegboard because you could hit it. 2 dart guns and a tetherball hung from the ceiling with a face on it. Okay, easy to punch, right? Some of the non-aggressive toys, we had a tea set, crayons, coloring paper, balls, dolls, toy bears, cars, trucks, plastic barnyard animals. You actually might need to know some of these. In the control classroom, toys were always placed in the same, or to control the classroom, toys were always placed in the exact same location as they were in the very first classroom. So remember, now that we're in the third classroom, the only difference is the teacher is not interacting at all. I mean, some children experienced non-interacting teacher in the first group, but now that we're in this third classroom, the kids are free to do whatever they want. So what do? All right, so now that the children are in this room for 20 minutes, we have our observers behind this one-way mirror. And remember, this is actually a double-blind study. Our children do not know which experiment they are in, which part of the experiment. They're probably not even aware this is an experiment. And our observers are not aware of which category the children previously came from. So they don't know if they were in an aggressive, non-aggressive, male, female model. They don't know any of that. Okay, all they're doing is taking instances of data, what is going on. They're writing it down every 5 seconds, which basically is enough to look down, right, look up, see what they're doing, look down, right, look up, see what they're doing. Okay. Now the session, like I just said, was divided into intervals of 5 seconds. So that's 240 instances of data for each child. And, basically what had happened is we have 2 observers. Okay. And we have our first observer and he takes all the data, and then we have our second observer and they match that data with the first. And we actually came up with a very high interraterability score of 0.9, which is like 99, which is like 90%. Okay, so amazing, awesome inter-rater reliability. So let's get into what did we take down for behavior. There was a checklist of like 8 points that they previously went over. I actually don't know if it's written out like in the book, the exact checklists that they would check off. So I'm just going to go ahead and just remind you that a lot of when we do observations, this was a covert. They're covered, okay? The kids didn't know they were there. And a lot of observational data is going to be quantitative, which means like slash marks, okay? Were the kids doing this? Were they not doing this? Were they doing this? But specifically for Bandura, we're gonna have both. We're gonna have those checklists, and we're going to have any data written down of what the child is doing, which is qualitative data. Okay, I lied. I found the 8 categories, and here they are. So number 1, imitative physical aggression. So a child hits the Bobo doll with the mallet, sits on the doll, punches it. Number 2, imitative verbal aggression. So are they going to repeat any of the phrases like sock 'em or hit 'em, kick 'em in the air? Number 3, imitative non-aggressive verbal responses. So he keeps coming back for more. Remember we said that. So if any of the children imitated those sentences. Number 5, if the child sits on the Bobo doll or lays the Bobo doll on its side, but does not show aggressive behavior. Check. 6, punches the Bobo doll or slap punches the Bobo doll aggressively. We want to check mark for that. 7, non-imitative physical and verbal aggressive behavior. So basically shows any physical aggression towards objects other than the Bobo doll. And 8, we want to see if there's any aggressive gunplay, because our models did not use the pistol at all, but we still want to see that. And let me tell you something, guys. I'm going to have to link the video in here. There's a YouTube video about, like, there's some scenes from this, and there is a child that picks up the pistol and basically is slapping and pistol whipping the Bobo doll with the pistol. Okay. Now let me remind you, the adult never picked up the gun in the first place. So this has to be some behavior or some recreated or new behavior, whether it was learned from home and brought there, or it was behavior that was created there. Okay. Like, this is insane, the amount of imitating that was created. And now we come to analyzing the data. And, you know, we really want to know, what are the results of the study? What do you need to know? So I'm going to read it to you and explain it. Hopefully what you see over here will help you to, you know, identify what these results specifically mean. Okay, so these are the most important results of the study. Children from the aggressive model group showed significantly more imitation of the model's physical and verbal aggression and non-aggressive verbal responses. So that's just basically saying that if someone is aggressive, that can have a lot of effect on a child, no matter what. Okay, aggressive behavior is going to have some type of effect. 2, children from the aggressive model group showed more partial imitation and non-imitative physical and verbal aggression, but not to a significant degree. Okay, so that's basically saying that the partial imitation is like the pistol whipping or adding their own flair to it. So they're basically saying that not a lot of the children created new aggressive behaviors. They're basically saying a lot of children imitated the exact aggressive behavior. Okay, that's important to know. That's really important in life in general. Okay, and 3, children from the non-aggressive model group showed very little aggression. Well, yeah, this is basically confirming the hypothesis, the social learning theory. Okay, so no aggressive shown, no aggressive done. 4, in the non-aggressive group, the male model had a significant inhibiting effect on the children. Guys, this means this is overall. This is overall, the male models had a more profound impact on the child's behavior, regardless of gender. Okay. Which this was hypothesis 2. Okay. Don't forget that. Now, 5, boys displayed a significant more imitative physical and verbal aggression with the male model. So if we're just looking at the male model only, like I just said previously, that the male model had the more impact, whether you were male or female. Now just look at the male model. Boys significantly imitated aggressive behavior of that male more than females. So overall, you're going to find that the males are way more aggressive than the girls. And a majority comes from the fact that they're imitating someone of the same gender. Okay. 6, girls displayed more verbal imitative aggression and non-imitative aggression with female models, but there was no significant difference. So basically, the girls imitated a majority of the words that were used, while the boys imitated a majority of the physicality that was used. Okay, so let's talk grave generalizability. Was the study generalizable? A lot of you are going to say yes, because we have an even amount of gender. But I need you to think about how many subcategories of the independent variable there were. There were actually only 6 kids in each group. Only 6. That's a very small sample size in each group. So you do have to think about that. I don't believe that this would be considered generalizable. Okay. And I mean, the group came from a very specific area, and it's an opportunity sample. So that's less generalizable than random. Okay. Now, reliability. So each child within the condition experienced the exact same exposure. So we do have high reliability, and this means just repeating the exercise and getting similar results. So everything was controlled. We do have our procedures laid out very well. So the being able to replicate this study is very high. For application, or how can the conclusions be applied to everyday life? This is like a key for parents, anybody bringing up children, nature versus nurture. Okay, aggression is learned behavior from our external environment. So knowing that, we can keep our children from experiencing very violent video games or movies in general, even violent experiences from people in their family. Just knowing that if our child is aggressive in any way, it came from their environment. It didn't come from their genetics. Okay, V for validity. There were good controls of extraneous variables. And this is, I mean, it's because it's a lab experiment. So we were able to control all the extraneous variables. Anything that we thought would be a problem that could cause a shift in our data, okay? Whether it's snack time, lunchtime, a bell ringing, whatever the case may be, we had really good controls. And, the question of validity is, did we measure what we intended to measure? And I think the answer is yes. So we do have high validity. Even though both models were different, male and female, they were consistent through the entire thing. All right. Now, ethics. Oh, ethics. Okay, we have childhood ethics you have to take into consideration here. We are also studying aggression with children. So first of all, no parental consent was given. No debriefing was given to the children. There was no, reaching out to the parents saying, hey, we did this experiment. If anything happens to your child afterwards, here's some services. We didn't do any of that stuff. Okay. Pretty unethical. We have, potential to cause harm because our children are now different. When they came to the experiment, they were one way, and when they left, they were psychologically a different way. So we did impose harm during this study, and you really should think about that. So, should this study be replicated? Never. No, I don't think so. And there's a reason for it. Think about doing this today. This study would never get done today, and you know it. What parent would put their child through aggressive visuals to see if they become aggressive? No one. But it did teach us a valuable lesson about being careful about our environment, and that can cause changes to our behavior, specifically when it comes to anything negative, aggressive, and physical. All right. Thank you so much for watching. If you want a little bit more help on your studies, you can join my Google Classroom. To do that and get the information, just email apsychology9990@gmail.com. I do have a TikTok, apsychology, and I also have an Instagram, apsychology. And you can follow both of those, get in touch with me, and figure out how to get into my Google Classroom. And thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to connect with you again. This is going to be it's a new ride for me, guys. This is a totally new experience, and we might be starting over. I don't know what's going to happen, but thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.